And we're back to our main story of the day. Ukraine will receive more US-made Patriot missiles to defend against Russian drone attacks. Well, Special Envoy Kellogg is traveling to Kyiv on Monday. And to talk about it, we are joined by Yevheniia Kravchuk, Ukrainian MP and Deputy Chair of the Committee on Humanitarian and Information Policy in Ukraine. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Donald Trump said a major statement on Russia will be delivered on Monday, most probably. Now, what do you think it will be, and what would you like it to be?
Well, of course, the renewal of the U.S. aid is extremely important, both in the military packages, all the intelligence we receive, and also the commitment that we hear from United States, because still it's the biggest military partner for Ukraine, for Europe, at least in the terms of NATO cooperation. And we do welcome Kellogg, the special envoy of President Trump, in Kyiv and in Ukraine, not only in Kyiv, and probably he will stay more than 1 day. So what we need now, besides the aid packages, is of course the tougher sanctions on Russian Federation. And if you look at the state of the economy of Russian Federation, you can clearly see that sanctions do work. And it looks like that the holder of Kremlin, Putin, did irritate Trump, not just with his ignorance and his arrogance in the when they spoke, but also with
And we're back on.
We had
yes. Well,
drones.
Now we know. But President Zelensky stated that Kellogg is a huge supporter of this bipartisan 500% tariffs bill. Now, do you expect this will be announced this Monday?
Well, it's the Senate's work. So basically, we do have the signatures of more than 80 senators from both parties, Republicans and Democrats. And I remind you that the total number of senators are 100. So it's the huge support for this bill. Of course, it's something that gives the leverage to President Trump in his conversation and his pressure on Moscow. But also it gives some reassurance to the European Union. And we do hope that EU will pass the 18th package of sanctions, despite that I think Slovakia this time is blocking it.
Right, so let me quote President Trump. We are going to be sending patriots to NATO, and then NATO will distribute that. Now, do you think it will secure future arms shipments now that the weapons are to be paid fully for by NATO?
Well, you remember that a few weeks ago there was a NATO summit in The Hague. And there was a historical decision taken by the countries who are members of NATO to secure 5% of GDP on the expenses on defense. It's extremely important that any aid to Ukraine will be counted in this 5%, because actually Ukraine is the shield for European countries right now. I mean, you can sleep peacefully in Poland because there is a neighbor, Ukraine, who is intercepting all the Shaheds and keeping out all of this, million army of Russians not crossing and not going further. So having strong Ukraine is essential for any of the countries who are members of NATO, especially if they are situated on the European continent. So, basically, I think it's also we will see the further development of military cooperation and defense tech together with Ukrainian companies. Ukraine right now is the biggest producer of drones in the world, and we can produce more, and we can test them on the battlefield right away.
Well, the other side is not sleeping either, unfortunately. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov is traveling to North Korea this weekend. Now, how problematic is this close cooperation between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, given the fact that North Koreans are to deploy some 30,000 additional troops in Ukraine? And there was a report recently that showed that some 40% of all the Russian ammunition fired in Ukraine comes from North Korea.
That's actually the numbers that the chief of our military intelligence, Mr. Budanov, stated in the interview to Bloomberg about the 40%. Well, I tend to believe this number, but it also shows that the military capacities of Russian Federation is not that great as they picture. So they need to have the support of North Korea. And it's also the ballistics, but also the troops and, the missiles. But at the same time, Russia is sharing the technologies that they own with North Korea. So making this axis of evil, mutually stronger. So that's something that nations and countries on the other side of the world in the Indo-Pacific should worry, because that's strategic cooperation between basically two aggressors that do not bind into the international laws. So I think extremely important to stop any of the shipments and any of the avoidment of the sanctions on the Western technologies that still could be found in Russian missiles.
Easier said than done, unfortunately. Yevheniia Kravchuk, Ukrainian MP, servant of the People Party, deputy chair at the Committee on Humanitarian and Information Policy in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.